Agenda.
You have one addition to the agenda.
Okay.
Consent agenda number one.
Okay.
Then I do have one change to the additions. There's one change to the agenda on number 5 under business. It should read school integration plan budget. It's really the budget that you're approving today, not the plan itself. And I'll explain that when we get there. And then on the addendum, just a change to number 3 or number 4, it should be review superintendent goals, not district goals. We put that in twice.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Cheryl, second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. We have proven correct the minutes from the March 11th, 2014 regular meeting. Okay, a motion by Kella to approve the minutes.
Second.
A second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. Financial reports. We'll kind of turn that over to Mark a little bit here.
I really don't have anything specific to talk about. The one negative one in the one report is 414, and it's just still an issue that we have the budget for it, but we're getting close to cleaning that up, but not quite yet.
Okay, and then we got the treasury report monthly balance sheet. We have any discussion? Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Motion by Lou. A second to approve the financial report. Second by Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, then we have audit and approve the bills.
I had the opportunity to come in this afternoon, or this morning, days are just running by. This morning to review the bills, and the only thing that I guess I seen is just to note anyhow, is that Ewell had a $16,000 bill. That's part of that project. It's again, something different than what was normal in the bills, but other than that, I would recommend a motion for approving the additional February bills and the March bills.
Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Lou. Do we have a second?
I made the motion to approve them.
You made a motion, so Lou's a second. Okay, motion by Mark, seconded by Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. Then we have the consent agenda, which is number 1. Review and consider approval of the following athletic assignment for the 2013-14 school year. 7th grade basketball coach Ben Moser. Or baseball, excuse me. Baseball coach Ben Moser.
So moved.
Was that you, Mark?
Yep.
So, motion by Mark, second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, then we're gonna move on to business. We have the FFA chapter and FFA alumni will present information and payment for electrical cost and well project. So, are you all gonna talk? Well, we kind of started to use our microphone. We have people that kind of listen at home. So, if you could maybe move down, would you mind? Don't be shy.
Yep, you can sit down.
Yep, yeah.
Working? Okay.
Introduce me, or?
I'm Anthony Welland. I'm Vice President of Paynesville FFA chapter. And we're here to present the first payment on our irrigation well we put in this last summer from 2 grants from Monsanto's and
West Central.
West Central Ag Sales. So it's for $2,800 and it's our payment. I'll just give you to say.
Okay, and everything going along fine there? So, well, thank you very much for the payment.
And I'm Ken Utch. I'm president of FFA Alumni. I have the check for the electricity for the well and the light for the sign, which I'll present tonight. And everything is going just fine. The well worked out really well. My understanding, it worked out just in time for us to water and the school to use the other well. So it was a nice asset. Just to touch on, well, you know, it's time coming, we'll get the crop in when the time is there, and, you know, the irrigating season. The new thing we have is, pursued by Stephen Linsmeyer. We're gonna be putting in a moisture probe, and it was donated by John Deere and Midwest Equipment. They're gonna come out and put it in, they're gonna monitor it. It's gonna tell us when we need to water, or if we're overwatering. They're taking all liability responsible of it. I mean, it's gonna be 4 feet in the ground, nobody's gonna pull it out and steal it, but there's no liability for it. There's only 3 of them in the state of Minnesota. One is in Morris, one is in Becker, that were put in last year for experimentation. And we have the 3rd one here. It is available for farmers to lease these things. It's a $2,000 lease per year, which is donated by John Deere, Midwest Equipment, so it's no cost to us. So, and it also puts Paynesville area schools on their website. So anybody wants to check their website, any farmer pulls it up, they can know exactly what's going on out here. So then, and we'll have the presentation on plot day on how well it worked.
Now, is that something that you can monitor? Actually, anybody can monitor, or it is just a specific?
Anybody with a smartphone
Really?
can pick up their website and they'll be able to see monitor moisture levels.
Now, do they have that connected to the well itself for turning it on and off, like some underground sprinkler systems are?
Not for us, it wouldn't work with the gun, but that's the goal
Okay.
for people with center pivot. This thing is gonna tell when to water.
Okay. So will this be automatically, so it's gonna water when it tells it to, or is this all that manual?
For us, it'd be a manual. To my understanding, I did a little research on them. You take a big field like 160 acres, and you can set up your center pivots that it's gonna start this thing up and it's gonna water a quarter of it. It's gonna skip a little spot. That's how sophisticated some of these irrigation systems are becoming just to conserve water. You all read in the Paynesville Press the article about the Bonanza watershed, you know, how they're pumping it down so far, so we'll see how it works. It should be interesting.
Very good. It's 1 out of 3 schools. Or 1 out of 3 in the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is excellent. Anything else?
Any questions? Other questions on?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I do want to just remind the board and the community that this really is a great asset to our school to have that second well. There are other areas that certainly we do need watering, and we'll talk about those. Certainly as we have the discussion about facilities, and this does give us more options by far than what we had before.
And I think to add to that, the bigger asset is the alumni that are putting this all together. I mean,
They are a strong group.
that's that's the key right there, you know, so we appreciate it.
And students do a great job also.
Yep.
It's a great program.
Mhm.
Well, they have several teams going to state already, so.
And I should mention the instructor.
Was she here?
Yeah, he does a good job. And on behalf of the alumni, we thank you for your support and for the financial support to get this well up in operation, and we'll keep you informed in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, then we're on review and consider approval of adding Project Lead the Way to the 7th grade curriculum.
I will. So you can clear it up.
Yeah, you get to go first.
I want to give a little bit story.
What we'd like to present tonight is a program called Project Lead the Way. The goal of the program that I see is one, to improve programs that we already have and to create partnerships with different businesses already in our community, one being the medical community as well as the industrial community, and creating students or giving students the opportunity to come away from their classroom or their class experience with relative skills and experiences that are going to prepare them for different careers that are out in the workforce or going on into college. So with that, we have Chuck Henches here to kind of explain the whole program, specifically. I sent Mike over to Corey to see the middle school program, and Jesse went up to Royalton to look at part of the high school program, as well as somebody after our meeting today that you're welcome to talk with is Wayne Hansen. Actually taught the program up in Ricori, and that's kind of between him and Bob. Came back and said, oh, you should see these really neat things that this program is doing and what students are walking away with it. So we kind of started looking at it. How can we improve the programs that we have for our students and give them even more of an experience than we are right now? So with that, I'll let Chuck take it from there.
Okay, I'm Chuck Henches. I'm from St. Cloud State University. I'm an instructor there, and then I'm also a director of outreach and resource for Project Lead the Way. Turn the slide.
Be more direct.
Now.
Yeah. So what is Project Lead the Way? Project Lead the Way is a STEM curriculum to the United States. It's the largest STEM curriculum that's out there. When we talk about STEM curriculum, we're talking about the implementation of science, technology, engineering, and math into one classroom. And the reason that it's such a priority for Project Lead the Way and for industry is that we see a dramatic lack of people in the pipeline going into STEM careers. So this is just a statistic, and I'm not going to really go into statistics, but if you look at just in Minnesota alone, they estimate by 2020, there'll be approximately 2.5 jobs for every one unemployed person. So you can see that there's a real need for that. I travel across Minnesota working with a lot of different manufacturing associations. I'm on some boards. And one big conversation that we have a lot of times is we just don't have employees to fill our spots. We've got the business, we got everything we need, but we just don't have the welders, we don't have the machinists, we don't have engineers. And STEM can range from the welders to the scientists to the nurses to those types of careers. And it's not just one focused area, but it's a large part of the Minnesota's economy. And they're really scared about the students that are going into it. So Project Lead the Way is it's a world-class curriculum. I taught it for 7 years when I was in the St. Cloud School District. It was by far the best curriculum that I've ever seen. As I go out in the last couple of years and going out to schools, the engagement of students is phenomenal. Project Lead the Way really enforces the hands-on applied science, math, technology, and engineering. It isn't theory-based, it's all learning about it and then applying it. And that's where the students really get a lot out of it. They can see the end result. And that's what's really a fantastic thing about the program. So Project Lead the Way basically started in 1997 on the East Coast, and 12 high schools got together with some large industries over there, because the industry had contacted and said, we see a real shortage of engineers, and we see a real shortage of students having problem-solving skills. And we really want to jump on this, and we don't have issues down the line. From that conversation and from those 12 schools started Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way is a nonprofit organization. We're not a vendor. All of our income comes from our donations. Cargill, Chevron, Toyota, 3M, they're all supporters of Project Lead the Way, and they have been for many years. They really believe in the rigor of our curriculum. They believe in the hands-on approach, and they've been great donators for Project Lead the Way through the years. So there's really three basic things that we consider why Project Lead the Way is better than anything we've ever seen. We've got really good curriculum, which I said a little bit about. Our professional development is amazing. Teachers go to a 2-week training. If you're at the high school level, they go to a 2-week training. At the middle school, they go to a 1-week training. And we basically call it a boot camp. It is putting in many, many hours so that teacher understands, and the teacher goes through just about every single activity that the student would do in that class for a full year, and they do it in 2 weeks. So it's really long hours, it's really stressful. We have several teachers that don't finish because they can't handle it. You do a readiness training, which means that before you can even go to the class, you have to take some math and science tests to make sure that your ability is up to the level. So their professional development is really key to making this a successful program. And the last thing is the Engaged Network. It isn't one of those curriculums where we drop it out the front door and we're done. We have support through Minnesota. We've got support through the United States that are continually helping out teachers as they are going through the program. If they've got issues, software programs, any kind of activities they're doing and they're not understanding it, that's part of what we do here as a Project Lead the Way support person. So right now, we're approximately training about 3,000 teachers a year in the United States annually. And so that we're really seeing that actually that's a little bit low. I think we're closer to 3,500 teachers a year, so we're getting a lot of teachers that are engaging in it. And one thing that I like this slide better than any of the slides because it isn't just about STEM careers and STEM. It's all about some of those things in red. If you work in a business or an organization or you own an organization, if you look at some of those things, these are the things that Project Lead the Way really enforces. How to solve problems, how to work with teams, how to analyze, how to speak in front of groups, how to do technical writing skills, how to manage time. Those are all assets, not just in STEM careers, but in any career they go into. And, I don't care if you're going to be an auto mechanic or you're going to be an insurance salesman. You need those types of skills in order to be successful in your job and be successful as an organization. So I really like that slide more than anything. That really tells about some of the activities really revolve around those types of things. At the middle school level, when I taught it, teamwork is a huge part of their success. They need to work in teams. If they don't work in teams, if they don't work successful, they're not going to finish the project. So it's really an important part of what they try to emphasize in the curriculum. And I'm not going to go into curriculum a whole lot, but this is basically the curriculum right now runs from K through 12. The elementary part, the K through 5, is actually brand new. It's at a pilot stage, and actually they'll be implementing it next year. So we won't talk much about that, but the Gateway program is the middle school program, and these are the units that we have right now. You can see design and modeling, automation, robotics, all the way down to medical detectives. All have to do with some kind of a STEM career. Design and modeling is the 3D modeling on a computer-aided drafting program. The software that Project Lead the Way supplies to the districts is state-of-the-art. It's updated every single year. We use a product called Autodesk Inventor. If you go to Park Industry in St. Cloud or you go to Cold Spring Granite, they use Autodesk Inventor. And it's a student version, but it's extremely close to what the professionals use. We had industry people coming in when I was teaching, and they'd just be in awe that they had a 6th or 7th grader that was doing computer drafting. And they were just really, really amazed with it. Automation robotics, we do a lot with robotics, not just building them, but also programming them, so they learn some programming skills. So those are some of the middle school courses. Pathways to Engineers, that is our 9 through 12 program, and that's just an extension of a lot of the classes that I showed you for the Gateway to Technology. Next slide, Bob. And these are the units that we have right now, Intro to Engineering Design, Principles of Engineering, Digital Electronics, all the way down the line. Basically, our intro courses, the engineering design, they learn a lot more about computer-aided drafting and those types of things. They learn what the design process is. That means they understand how a product is created, all the way from brainstorming to actually creating a 3D model and creating the actual finished product. So as you go through the Principles of Engineering, we have many of these courses that are taught by either math, science, or tech ed teachers. It really depends. We see a lot of math teachers teaching the digital electronics. We see a lot of science teachers teaching the Principles of Engineering because there's a lot of physics involved with it. So it isn't just one discipline that teaches the courses, and that's what really is neat about it, is because that really truly enforces that whole STEM concept. So we really encourage schools not to just have it in one area, and we like to spread it around so that it's taught by others. If it's their forte, or it's something that they're good at teaching. The last one is the biomedical science program, and that's the program that Jesse saw at Loyalton, talking about the human medicines, the cell biology, genetics, and things like that. And that program is basically 4 programs, and these are sequential. They talk about the principles of biomedical science, human body systems, medical interventions, and biomedical innovations. The classroom that we looked at in Wilton, they were doing the principles of biomedical science, and they were also going to implement the human body systems next fall. They were going to send a teacher because they were so impressed with the curriculum. We had talked to the principal, Joel, and I forgot his last name, who's extremely an advocate of Project Lead the Way, and just couldn't say enough about how much he really enjoyed the biomedical. And they also have project engineering courses also, 3 or 4. Like I said before, the software that we have is state-of-the-art. It's upgraded every single year, and that's part of the fees and things that Lori will talk about. What's really the best thing about, or I should say the best, one of the best things about Project Lead the Way is that Project Lead the Way, when the students take the courses, if they pass the end of course exam and get a B or better in their course, they get college credit. And that college credit can be used at the University of Minnesota, St. Cloud State University, MSU Mankato. Just about every 2-year MINSCU college will take their credit. And every college accepts it differently. So for example, St. Cloud State University, for $100 you get 3 credits. And if anybody knows anything about college, that's it is it's an elective credit. It's a 3-credit transcripted credit. It's the easiest transcripted credit that you can get in the state. And this isn't just in Minnesota. This is around the nation. Duke University, Cal State, Penn State. All those universities are on board because they realize that the curriculum of Project Lead the Way is that rigor. That those students, when they graduate and have those knowledge pieces behind them, deserve to have those 3 credits. So that is one thing that's really a highlight of what I would say of our program. Another thing is that when we're talking to Lori, it's how well some of these courses fit into courses that they're already teaching. It isn't like it's an add-on. So for example, if we look at the very first course in the biomedical, that program is very similar to what they're teaching now in the school. So it's something that can be implemented without actually, having more staff or having, extra classes or things like that. And then the students get college credit on it versus not. And I see that as a real asset for the program. So, and here's the asset. When we talk about the assessment, they take an end of course exam. It's all done online. The teachers, they don't know that the exam is not seen by the teacher. They do have an idea of the percentages of each unit of what they're taught, what they're teaching, but they do not see the test at all. And, and of course, I talked about college university credit. Okay, another thing, Project Lead the Way is aligned with the Common Core standards for the national, at the national level. So that is one nice thing. So as you go through, we look at our middle school program, we look at the high school program, which standards are we hitting? We have some districts that are using the principles of engineering as their 9th grade science class. It's a struggle. It's a lot of curriculum because they got to implement some of the chemistry standards, but they are doing it in some districts. Minnesota is unique. We're the only state in the United States that has adapted what we call Minnesota frameworks, which means that because of our standards are a little bit more stringent than the national standards, we've taken all of our pathway to engineering courses, that means the gateway and the engineering courses at the high school, and we implemented the science and math standards. So a teacher could pull up a website, we've got them on the website, they can say, okay, today we're teaching about the design process, and going through and seeing which science and math standards that may hit for that day. So the students understand why they're learning what they're learning. So we implemented those about 4 years ago. Next slide. Some of the things that we got going on, we're doing a computer science, software engineering. We're piloting it this year. We'll be in implementation next year, 14-15. And then also we're doing the elementary, we call it launch program. So we really see, research is really showing us that students, we really lose a lot of students in the elementary ages of that don't like math and science, about 4th and 5th grade. And research is really pointing that we really need to start a lot earlier. K1, 2, 3, 4, all the way, and build it up through the middle school and through the high school to keep them engaged, especially the female population. You see a real drop off in the female population after that 3rd or 4th grade. We got about, that's a little old, we have about 260 schools, I believe, that are Project Lead the Way schools. We go through about 60,000 students, and about close to 600 teachers that are teaching it right now in the state of Minnesota that are out there. We've seen some results in math and science scores. These are just a couple of them. Actually, when I did my master's, I took Project Lead the Way courses and I examined students who took my courses and students who didn't, and looked at their math scores and looked at the gains in their scores. And then in some of the areas there were definitely some spatial sense and those types of things. There were significant gains of those scores because they were using I was using that curriculum. So I can't think of anything else. Any questions at all? There's a lot of stuff in a little bit of time.
I do have a couple questions,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Yes.
So last summer, when the governor did his bill in the state of Minnesota, they talked about the Minnesota workforce. And it looks like what you've done here is possibly are able to take what is being assigned to all the instructors to pass all these tests and keep our scores high, and incorporated that to develop that workforce. Am I reading this somewhat correct?
Well, I mean, I think there's possibilities there. I do, whether or not that's, but I think with the hands-on and those types of things, yeah, I think it's one of those things where if we can have a student that, let's say, is struggling with his math or science scores, and we can put him into a Project Lead the Way course, and we can show that student how that math and science is applied, students learn more. They just do. They understand. I mean, you'd be amazed when you go into a class and a student will raise their hand and say, we just did that in math. Now I understand why I do this. Why do I got to know how to graph? Why do I, well, this is why. And this is what we're doing. So, I mean, I think it really, it emphasizes that.
And then how many credits could they incorporate in our school? How many credits could the kids earn for?
Can I have you hold that question until it's my turn?
Yep.
Okay.
And then, in the area, you have 240 schools in the state.
Yep.
And how many schools are there, Bob?
There's 300.
So lots of the schools are awarded on this thing already?
There's lots of schools. Yeah, the metro area is our heaviest areas. I would say Minnesota. Up north is pretty significant. Central Minnesota's, we're getting more and more. But metro and up north, where there's a lot of manufacturing, we seem to have a lot. And we vary from very large districts to Egan, Anoka Hennepin, which is the biggest district in the state of Minnesota. They implemented every single Project Lead the Way course, from 6 through 12, biomedical, everything. And we've got districts, Clearbrook, Gondvik, which I think they graduate probably 30 to 40, which have implemented every single Project Lead the Way course.
So there's certainly some districts that have it in all their schools, so when they talk about that, you know, a district may have 2 schools and they both may have Project Lead the Way or, you know, in them, so it's a large.
And did you say though, in our specific area, where Corey is, if you look kind of at our,
If we look at our
close by neighbors?
McCory, Kimball, Loyalton, all the St. Cloud school districts, Sartell, Wilmer's got a really strong program. Hutchison has it, Litchfield does not. So those are some of the areas that we see.
Anybody else have a question before we move forward? Okay.
Then I think before I kind of go to like where we're looking at the implementation part and the dollar part, I'd like to have Jesse talk about his visit at Royalton. And that was, he visited the high school program, and the program that he saw and the teacher that he visited with was in the biomedical program.
Yeah, I won't take a lot of your time, but one of the things that I was really impressed with, I saw students who were incredibly engaged in a program in which they were diagnosing somebody and they were figuring out, they were testing glucose levels and insulin levels to test if they have diabetes. And so they were taking something that was fundamentally taught in my class, but they were doing it in a way that was engaging and relevant to them, and something that potentially, if they go into the medical field, that they will be doing in the future. Like, if they become a doctor, they will look at glucose and insulin levels and try to make a diagnostic. Or if they go into a lab tech field, they would do that exact same thing. So just really relevant things that I saw from this classroom, and so I was very impressed. And I looked around the room, and I had an interesting chat with the principal. And I looked around, I said, you know, this is incredible. I look around, I see an entire classroom that's incredibly engaged, and all the students in here are interested. They're into it 100%. And he said, if I look around the room, he says, these aren't your A honor roll students. These are your like middle of the road students, essentially. And so students that normally wouldn't get college credit and wouldn't begin a advanced class in this are getting college credit, and they're doing something that's relevant and meaningful to them. So in our case, this class would replace my advanced biology class. So the class already exists and I'm already teaching it. We would just switch it over to this class instead and offer college credit. So for me, it sounds like a real big win. So.
And now I'll have Mike share his visit at Ricori, and that was with the 8th grade, middle school, 7th to 8th grade
Yep, 7th, 8th
combination.
grade. If I had a chance to make it there last week, sat in a Project Lead the Way course. It was fun to see the students of that age working on the computers and the instructor showing them things on the smartboard, and they tried dimensions. They were actually doing a modeling of a playground slide and a climbing wall. And it was pretty, you know, they had set up, they had a picture of what they wanted to come up with. They give them some dimensions and instructions, they kind of set it up. And they kind of help each other as friends. They kind of go around with kids would help another kid, and they kind of say, well, I'm not quite sure. Asked a lot of questions. It was interesting how they were kind of engaged in it. They tried different dimensions, they'd set up things, and they'd make the slide. They didn't be too long or too short, and they'd find out how they change different dimensions. And it was neat how the engineering part, and they could see when it was done, they could put color to it and see the actual 3D dimensions of it on their screen. They're like, wow, you know, the kids were really getting into that too. It was neat. I mean, it sounds like a great thing to get into. I'm excited to be part of it. Get on the ground floor here, kind of, and it sounds like fun to work with these kids and kind of get them interested in these sort of things, like hands-on kind of stuff. And like, it's such a good thing to know how things are built. I mean, where does it start? Who starts it? And to get them going at that age, kind of just to get the wheels rolling and stuff. I mean, it seems like a great thing. I think it's really fun.
I do have a question. The college credits sounds phenomenal. It sounds like both of the teachers are sold on the idea, but you've struggled in the past with teachers having to meet a certain criteria to be able to teach that class. Do you have that?
No, as long
Because
as
of
they
that
pass,
boot camp
as long
thing.
as they pass yeah. Well, and then because of accountability, what we do is every 3 years, we certify schools. So we will come in with a team of 3 to 4 people. It could be, it's typically a university person, industry person, and maybe somebody from National Project Lead the Way or whatever. We'll come in and we'll do practically almost a day certification visit to make sure you're using the proper software, the students are keeping engineering notebooks, so that it is a certified program. And so as long as it's a certified program, they will receive a credit.
Chuck, when you come in to do that, is there a cost to the district for that piece?
Yes, there is, and it never was, but we have to, it has sustainability, and it's going to be $500. And that, I shouldn't say every 4 years, it'd be every 4 years. That would be $500.
You were visiting a 7th and 8th grade class,
Yes.
so now the college credits?
Not in the
No,
7th
not in
grade,
seventh grade.
that's just the
No,
high school.
just the 9 through 12. But a 9th grader, if they pass an IED class or whatever course it is, they will have 3 credits.
Okay, Bob, can I have you put that first slide up? So looking at our building and our program, and what kind of started me down this path was comments like, we don't have college credit yet in our science program. We don't at this time have a partnership with our industrial businesses. We don't have a strong partnership yet with our hospital, and those are great business programs that I would love to have a partnership with within our curriculum, and have students see a connection between what they're doing here and what they might be doing when they leave our doors, walk out of our doors. If it's going to work right after high school, if it's going to a 2-year tech program, or if it's going into a 4 or more college program. And that's what I really see this program taking all of those statements and giving us an answer. So as I look at what our program has, because whatever we do, we have to make work within our system, because we don't have a lot of extra dollars, and we have to keep it within the counts of our student population. So if we look at our middle school program, I look at our exploratory classes, which we have 4 in the 6th grade, 4 in the 7th grade, 4 in the 8th grade, as a time to take students and allow them to explore multiple careers. Right now, we do repeat 2 different programs. Our FACS program, they're different curriculum, but it kind of hits that same fundamental overall view, is our FACS program and our WOODS program. So as I look at it, I look in our middle school, starting off with the design and modeling, and that is the first program that you do have to, it's sequential from talking with Chuck. So looking at our 7th grade program, and Mike would be on the ground floor in that, and they work with the drafting, with computerized program. I grew up with CAD, you have the other one, can't remember what the name of it, and they come out with different 3-dimensional, some of the projects is building a robotic arm, building a playground, some different things, and it's just incredible what they learn and they can walk away with, and the problem solving and opening their eyes to what are some different career opportunities out there. And then looking at down the road, I'm kind of envisioning kind of 2 years, depending on my funding operations, is the automation and robotics program. And that's kind of that next level up, looking more at that technology, the math, the science, and engaging the students there. In high school, the science program is one of those areas we don't have college credit. We have a strong advanced biology program. We offer it every 2 years, is the principles of biomedical science, and that's where I see that connection with the hospital could be very, very viable and very strong, and create a partnership there. Then, following that, again, I just kind of threw the 2-year mark out there, would take that principles of engineering. As Chuck had mentioned, they've already kind of developed the chemistry standards and the IPS standards within that, so that would cover that block. I originally was looking at physics, but if it would work with the 9th grade, running through that, we'd have a 7th grade course, an 8th grade course, that principles of engineering would be 9th grade, and then the advanced biology would be in that 10th and 11th grade year, which is the cycle that our students commonly run. So I think that would be a great start of a vision for building the program. And with that, if you wanted to go to questions on that part?
Yeah, just a real quick thing, we were just
Yeah.
talking about the loss of the kids in elementary school.
Yeah.
So if we have the loss of the kids in elementary school and you don't address that, then how do they grow into this program? Or is the goal to put them back to what they lost?
We see a variety, because the elementary program's so new, I mean, I think it's important that, obviously you could start at the elementary level, you could, but I think to get more community buy-in and really, especially if you're looking for the college credit, try to get that into place first is probably a good way to look at it, and then go back and maybe start with the launch program or the elementary program.
Plus, I like your term that you're looking 2 years down the road, because a lot of times you start something with all of the best intentions, but the funds come up, because we have no control over how the funds come in. So if you start in the elementary, you get them all hyped up that they're gonna do this, and then they get to middle school, and we didn't quite make it that year, so they would have to wait till they got to high school, and then it kind of messes up the whole
Sequence.
sequence, that's the word I'm trying to
So that's just a question about where the
Anticipation,
governor sits
yeah.
on this and the legislature, because we talked about Minnesota workforce.
Yeah, so in coming to that question, we do have to put together a workforce plan and creating job or student readiness, career readiness plans, programs that we have to develop by the end of next year. This would be part of that plan. This would be a piece that we could use to meet those requirements as well. The graduate credit, the first year they would receive, and it's with the colleges, but our closest neighbors like St. Cloud State, I checked with U of M the other day, they would be 3 credits with electives, and so is UMD. University of Minnesota Duluth. So I just kind of called and asked them. My son is starting to apply.
I didn't know you would be here.
Yeah. So anyway, it's probably close to that, for most of them. But with any time a student is looking at colleges for college credit, I always tell them, talk to your counselors, because they are the ones that have to make the call. Looking at how the cost runs down, and there's some different numbers, I'll go through and explain it. The teacher training for the middle school program is $1,200, and for the high school is $3,000. And moving across those lines, you have the staff development expense. That is basically the stipend for the teachers moving or attending that time, because we'd have them working for us at that point. The cost for the program is $750 for the middle school program and $2,000 for the high school. That's basically the same cost our college course credited classes cost us. So, if we're going to put a college course, it's very similar to that, what we pay in our other areas. The equipment costs, these are the startup costs. This is kind of the one that, oh my gosh, is $6,000 for the middle school because of the VEX kits. Those are kind of the robotics kits that you utilize in the program. And it's about $16,000 to $18,000 in the high school because they have different packages of the more technical veneer, different things like for the diabetes testing, etc., that you would have to purchase. And I'll come back to that, so don't let it scare you yet, because I had an interesting visit today. And then you go to the renewable cost. This is for our district to continue this course on a year-by-year basis after you've met the startup cost. $500 for the middle school. Currently, we spend $800 for the FACS program. So it actually would fit into what we're currently spending. And if you look at the principles of biomedical, we spend about $900 to $1,000 currently for our advanced bio class. So that would fit in there as well. So the continuation of the program after we have the startup is definitely within our reach. And then there would be, coming back to that startup cost. If the board likes the idea of us moving down this pathway and could see this fitting into our curriculum and would be good for our kids, which I'm very excited about it. I would like to take that initiative to set up some meetings with myself and Chuck and our teachers, and I even would like to pull Wayne Hansen into it since he's had the opportunity to teach it, and meet with some of our local industries, meet with the hospital to see if we could come up with that startup cost of the program. And then, so make it more feasible for our district to have the program. I met with a couple today and they would love to have the presentation. They were very interested, just to kind of put feelers out there because of that startup cost is a big dollar amount. The other thing would be in the middle school, because Mike is CTE certified, we would also have some other funds available to us through the Carl Perkins. It would, for the equipment costs and also some of the staff development, we could use for the 1 year through Carl Perkins. So those costs we could pull off of it as well. So I do have some ideas on how to make it financially feasible, if it is something that you guys would be as excited about as I would be, or I am, and our teachers are. So I guess that's,
And bounce off of that a little bit. These costs here, are these gonna reoccur?
no,
Every two,
those are
3, 4
equipment,
years, or is that a long?
No, just the startup cost.
long
Okay.
term. They are something that you could use 10, 15 years. It's those renewable costs that you would have each year or every other year, depending on the number of students that you have going through. Kind of like preserved specimens, you know, when you're doing the dissecting or whatnot.
Purchasing chemicals, stuff
Mhm.
like that.
So
So
that's,
how does it look as it expands over a 5-year period of time? So this is part of it, and then we expand from here? Because
I
you
would
got
like
into some
to.
of the engineering things and some of that. So the startup costs are more similar to this, to move
For
into those
each-
programs too?
yep, Jesse took some time, do you want to talk about? He kind of looked ahead.
Yeah, so in order to get the principles of biomedical science set up, there's a big startup cost because they're buying all these really current laboratory supplies, like sensors and probes and stuff like that. And so that's where the big cost comes from. But then to add on the other one, so say down the road we wanted to add on the human body systems one, we would have a lot of those sensors and probes already, so we wouldn't have, the startup cost would be less. Does that, I think that makes sense. So we would have a lot of the equipment already. There would be a few things you would need to purchase above and beyond, but as far as the startup cost, it wouldn't be anywhere near where this first initial one is.
So, but you talked about the engineering part of it,
Yep.
more than just staying with the science part?
Yep.
So where was that?
Looking at those startup costs, I think that's where I would like to create a partnership with our business community and our industrial community, and that would be something I would propose to them as well, is if they are helping with us to start up this first set, that they would also possibly help us with that expansion. At the same time, we may be able to look at Carl Perkins for the design and engineering, depending on where we put it and with what instructor, Carl Perkins grant dollars may be available or may not, kind of depends on those things. So, you know, there would be startup costs, so before we'd expand, we'd have to figure out where those startup costs would come from.
And we don't want to jump,
I mean,
the tracks. I mean, we don't have the first program set
Yeah.
up and running the way that we
you
want
know,
it to, so.
I mean, and that's kind of why I put it out there.
If we go down this road, we need to evaluate at the end of the year on where we're at and where we want to go from there.
And some of the engineering programs are very inexpensive. For example, the Intro to Engineering Design is mostly computer-based. There's very little cost in the Intro to Engineering Design. POE is a little bit more expensive. The most expensive one is, I believe, is SIM, which is Computer Integrated Manufacturing, because then you have to have CNCs and things like that. Now, does that have to be implemented? No, it does not.
And schools are very selective about what they implement.
Well, exactly, I mean,
Not all schools have every one of these
No, they
programs.
don't,
In fact, there are very
just like
few,
anybody,
yeah.
just like every school board that we go
There
talk to.
are limits to everything
Yeah,
that we have to
so,
look
I
at.
mean, some are more expensive than others.
And that's why I said, that I just put a timeline. I think it is a great program, and I think the curriculum is set up for helping our students look ahead at what careers are going to be opening up. Because you're always hearing, some of the careers that we have today, we're not gonna have 15 years from now, 10 years from now, everything's going to be changing. So some of those soft skills that was on Chuck's favorite side, problem solving, teamwork, all of those things, are also skills that we're building with these students because they're actively engaged in the components of the course. So no matter what career they go into, they're going to do well.
Is the design and modeling class for 7th grade, all 7th graders will get that?
All 7th graders would get it. How we have that exploratory set up with 4 quarters, they take German, they take Woods, they take FACS now in the computer lit. It would take the place of that 7th grade FACS program, but we would still have that 8th grade FACS program. So like I said, we would just broaden that umbrella of what we're having the kids explore. So, but all students would get that. The biomedical one, it would be those students that signed up for it as an elective.
And those students in the end decide whether we offer a course or we don't offer a course.
So if you have 60 students in a class that want to take the biomedical course, would it be made available to them?
Yeah, we could offer to, so there is no additional course from what I read.
No.
There's
you
no
can offer
additional charge for the number of sections
No.
that we offer. So if we offer 1 section one year and offer 2 or 3 the next year, there is no fee for that. It's that straight.
Yeah, it is, you have to remember that those students come from somewhere. But the students are the ones that get to decide.
And there may
Which
be
classes they take.
another elective that would be offered because, you still only have 75 juniors that are looking for a class, So that's where kind of that student decision comes in as
No,
far
I was
as
just
the number of
wondering if
sections.
you would have to turn down some students because.
No, we wouldn't say the
It's
class
only
is
covered.
full, you can't go in.
Okay. That was my
That's
question.
just the question.
What you're talking about, Bob, if the students didn't sign up for the second year, the class wouldn't be offered.
Well, it's just like anything else that we have, if we don't have
But
enough
this
students
has-
that sign up.
This carries a cost
Well,
to get started.
well,
If you would-
there does. I mean, I would tell you this, I wouldn't be bringing this to the board, Lori wouldn't be bringing this to the board if I didn't believe pretty strongly in this program. And I have my own bias on here because Chuck and I were the ones that started that program at our previous school. I've seen what that program can do for middle-aged students. And when Chuck says that it wasn't just A and B students doing great in that class, he's very accurate with that. It had some students who you struggled in just about every other class, doing extremely good work.
And I do think one thing that I do try to keep in mind when looking at these programs, and there's programs that came across my desk when I started looking, and Bob brought this program up, that I just said, no, I don't think that's gonna fit in our situation, is because we are limited in the number of sections that we can offer, because we are a smaller based school, we're a 3-section school at this point, is whatever we offer, it has to be something that most students could be successful in, so even like the other concurrent courses that we're offering, we do have students in there that aren't your A students, and they may not take it for college credit. They have the option to just take it for a high school credit, and there's a different grading system for students that are taking it just for high school credit, and then they have a different, college grade or high school credit. So we do have to be choosy when we're looking at curriculum, that it is something that's going to hit a large base of our student population. I also see this course in these programs being a highlight to our district and something that other neighboring districts don't have. and could pull, kind of like a magnet program, pull students in because they're interested, because we have these programs which are going to increase some interest because students have had exposure earlier in middle school to things like we have a phenomenal auto program, auto manufacturing program, welding, industrial tech, science. So I do see it as a magnet and a way to get students interested in taking some of these different electives that we have.
Can I add one more thing? As far as the students that are getting the college credit, when we look at our scores through the state of Minnesota and many of the high schools I go to, and the students that are passing the end of course assessment, we're looking at students that are at probably a rate of 60 to 65% for sure that are passing the end of course assessment that are getting college credit, versus some districts we go to where AP students are getting maybe 15% are passing. So we have a large rate of students that are getting those college credits. So, and we contribute all to the curriculum because the curriculum lays it out and it does a very good job of it. So it really does open that big spectrum of students that normally probably wouldn't take an AP class that are still getting some college credit, whether they use it a 2-year or a 4-year. So I think that says a lot about the program.
And in the end, as far as the cost, this is no different than any other elective type of course that we offer. If the students do not see a value to this, this will not survive. There won't be the recurring cost because you're not offering the course. Do I foresee that happening? No, we've already got a successful program that's already running. We're just going to run it a little different than we currently are. So I'm not concerned over that particular piece. But in the end, if the courses aren't good and the students don't like them, and they're not providing the students what they need.
There's been businesses in this community for a long time that have been hounding
You've heard it?
and for years to get more tech courses, more computer stuff. I mean, because there's jobs out there that the line, they're not teaching these kids what they need to know to work at our place.
As part of Project Lead the Way at the high school level, we really actually require that you have an advisory board. And the advisory board consists of industry people, administrators, teachers, and some 2-year or 4-year college representative that meet probably 2 or 3 times a year. That you have to have that because it's such a strong sustainability piece. That if industry and your community doesn't know what you're doing, they're not going to support it. And that's why the programs that we see that are the best are the ones that have that really strong partnership team, because you have industry people who say, yeah, that's important to us, we want this. And they go up to Peter and say, you should see what they're doing in Paynesville High School. And that gets out there. So we think that's just a key component for the sustainability and success of the program.
Questions from the board?
I think it's a great project. It's coming from the tech world myself, that's where you're going to get the students engaged, whether they're a D student or an A student, and I would support this venture.
There is a cost. I mean, we do, in essence, lose the FACS program in the 7th grade, but we do offer that as an elective. It's also in the 8th grade right now. I think this truly would be a great addition to what the students need in this day and age. There is a tremendous push by the governor for STEM type of initiatives. At one time, they actually offered some grants and stuff. Now those have disappeared because programs have started. So they're not available right now, but certainly we can continue to look for ways to continue to get it. I think when we talk with Chuck about it, I know that there is a big startup cost. SDSU will do all they can.
Yes, we're really strong about trying to have the local hub around St. Cloud have Project Lead the Way.
And there's some equipment they'll let us use at the time. Example, when even the 7th graders, if I'm not mistaken, Chuck, do some of the coursework and they develop some things. SDSU has a 3D printer, for instance, that they'll come out and they'll give the kids an opportunity to actually print. And if you've never seen a 3D printer, they are the coolest things. But our students will have access to using them,
Definitely.
at least for a period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess what I would like to ask the board is if you are in favor of it, I would like to be able to venture out and see what I can do to make it economically feasible. So, and so I guess I would like to have that, yes, that would be good, to then possibly set up a dinner, luncheon type of program to bring it to some of our community businesses. I don't know if that has to be a motion or just go
I
again.
have a question for you. It's pretend it's just a.
Nope.
Because your demand with that has to make the bottom line out, come out straight. And if you're comfortable with attempting this feasibly.
I believe that it's worth the district to go down this road. Now, I can't tell you that for sure there's not a give and a take with this.
There's
We-
give and take with anything.
with
What I'm saying
everything.
is that, are you comfortable with financial?
I think it's worth it.
All right.
That's what I would tell you.
Then
You know, and do be aware, and I do want this clear, I mean, everything has its cost. If kids take this, they don't take something else. So, you know, next, you're gonna hear me at the end of this meeting, when I report, talk about budget cuts. Budget cuts are built on staffing and what kids take and everything else. You heard me go through it. You heard me talk about how we look at making those decisions. At the next board meeting, you're gonna hear the same thing. If we offer one course, it does affect other things, and you need to be aware of that. I believe this is a great addition to the district.
And I have done the high school schedule, I've got to draft it this time. We do have, and we have every year I've been here, had the number we have needed to take advanced biology. And our numbers so far this year, we have 28 students in the class. So it is a class as far as the teacher time we'd be offering, and if it's taking the place of the facts, teacher time, you know, that would be something that we would be.
But we have to start looking for the future too.
And that's
I mean, we
where
can't be
I
just
see
stagnant
this.
of what, you know,
Exactly.
offering just the same courses year after year. And we have to start looking at how we can prepare our kids for the future.
And
Because
that's
they're competing globally, not
Correct.
just to McDonald's down the street here.
Exactly, and that and the industry comments as far as what are you doing to,
what's the jobs? And
you know,
bottom line is
these are the
everybody
jobs that
needs
are
it.
out there. So I do see this as fitting something that we've been looking for.
And you have a real advantage because you've already had some of this conversation. You know that industry is looking for this. We go to communities that don't have that backing and have to get that backing. Or not the backing, but at least that conversation start, the interest. That's a huge hurdle. That is a huge hurdle, and you overcome some of that already, and that shows some great initiative to at least explore it, you know.
My curiosity, I agree with the program 100%, I think it's a really great thing, but I just have a feeling we're looking at a narrow window. And I'm going back to what Deb talked about, where the funding gets short. So, I mean, what does this really look like if we really buy into this program on a 5-year stretch?
You could simply start with Project Lead the Way and the medical thing, and it could end right there. You don't have to add any other
We don't have to
classes.
expand, and the equipment that we would purchase for Project Lead the Way, if we continue down that route or we don't, it is something that we could continue to use in our science classes. So
I don't think
the
you lose
only,
anything.
if you look at the renewable costs, you know, the FACS program currently that we're using, we spend $800 on. The renewable cost for this program is $500. If you look at the advanced bio, we usually spend about $900 between chemicals, preserved specimens, and all of those things. This program for renewable costs is about $9,000. But you also, don't forget, have that $2,000 per year cost for the program, but that's that choice to make it a college credited course, which we do with all our college credit. If we decide to offer the Project Lead the Way and not be accredited, you could do that too, but then you're choosing not to get the college credit. But at this time, I would like to support the college credit. I would come to you and to support the college credit. So, I mean, but that would be an additional cost than what we are spending right now on the advanced biology. But we've talked about looking at the science area to have a science credit in our science area. So, does that put that in perspective at all?
Yeah, I kind of get the short term, but we're sitting here trying to figure out a long-term plan for
Yeah.
us as a district altogether. And Bob's been working on that. And if the program is great, I was just fascinated in some of the mathematics and other things that you were talking about that you can make this grow to. I think there's a lot to be able to expand to. I would love to see something on a plan, so
And I
that when
guess-
we enter something like this, maybe we don't enter just for a class, but we plan it. What is it gonna look like 5 years from now? What is it gonna look like 10 years from now? Because people wanna bring their kids to our district, and then maybe we want them to start in kindergarten. They don't want us to be stopping and starting programs and all
Well, I
that.
think, Bruce, you gotta start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, and I believe we can start,
Yeah.
but making a plan
I mean, and
is just a thought pattern.
you know, and to look at where things could fit, but at this, and I understand what you're saying. At the same time, you know, we started with the English honors, and you kind of grow as, and implement as you can. I think the plan would be is if we like in our district and our business partners, you know, see this as a valuable program, it will expand and we'll move down that path. I think going out farther than, you know, that 2-year implementation, I think we have to at least get our feet wet before we go
But the
that
other part
route.
of it too is what Chuck was saying, is that the engagement that the kids are gonna have, even though they probably aren't gonna go into engineering, or probably that they're not gonna go in healthcare, but you know what, if they are able to work that sociably together, where right now we have classes that the kids just sit there and don't do much of anything. If we have an all program that is science program that, you know, that they get engaged in it, they might spike interest or something like that. But you don't know that until you actually get into it. And where the monies are in 5 years from now, we won't know where the monies are. I mean, we've been up and down roller coasters in education for years. Basically, you go have a successful program. Many of the school systems in our state of Minnesota are doing it. It can't be wrong. We're the minority actually, so we should be really looking at getting aboard right now instead of waiting for a 5-year plan to be put out at some point in time. Because we're losing, our kids that are graduating are losing out on this year. And every year that we go through this year, they're losing that much more.
And certainly as we start talking about strategic planning and all that, all this is certainly
This is
a
something
piece of the discussion.
Yeah. But you know what, 5 years from now, we won't know what the next thing is.
So part of the idea of a plan is so you have a plan to move forward. For as long as I can remember, if we can bring up another district that's only about 10 miles from here, they have always had a very big, long-range plan. And it would be part of the plan, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done before we set. I think the 2 issues. One is, I think it's great for us to get started, but where can it go? What does that plan look like? And maybe that goes to our strategic planning committee, so that if a parent is coming here to look at what their educational is, this is kind of what our plan is. Do we always achieve all the plans? Everybody's got a business, or we're working for somebody that has lots of plans. You don't always achieve them, but at least you have a directive. And that's really all.
And I think we have one already.
The
We
first
have
one
one.
has.
Can I go back one slide? And this actually goes 4 years out, goes out to 2018. So, but, so
Put some
yeah,
numbers
we
to
want
it.
to, yeah.
That'd be my only issue, is
As
find
far as
out, what
cost
does it
numbers?
cost? What does it cost? We're talking about technology, bringing in new computers. Well, if there's special computers you have to do the mathematics part of it, what does it cost for the technology group to spend a minimal amount instead of buying the wrong computer? That's all I'm saying.
And certainly we need to look at all that, and that's certainly even a discussion that, we have to have with the community about the need for the technology for these students now. It's not the same world that I grew up in.
Right, and then when you start talking about all of this 3D business and all that, those are some pretty sophisticated computers. But they may not be a lot different than what we may be gonna buy to replace them already and just do the right thing. That's what you would get in a plan.
We're not really saying we're going to do this. We're just giving you the we like it, figure out if we can make
If
it.
I can figure out if it will work, then
Then come
I
back.
would come back.
Then we'll have that conversation.
Okay, so is everybody,
That's-
Yeah, I go for it.
I think we should look into it.
Super.
Okay,
Definitely.
so if I can look into getting this done, that's my next goal.
Have some names.
Or work something
Okay,
out.
I would
with
love
SCSU.
names and
What
from
was
the.
Or work something out with SCSU for some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I would tell the board that I'm, you know, because all things involve staffing to some degree at this point. And I'm going to come to the board with some recommendations next year, or next month, at our first meeting. We're going to need an answer fairly quick on this particular piece, because I'll probably come to the board, if the board kind of tables this right now, and that's fine. But I will be coming back to the board then and saying, no, we have to move forward one way or another, because we're running into staffing issues that we need to
You could be
address.
looking at her with that serious face. We got.
well,
I think I gotta go if I can find out
Yeah.
the startup cost.
so can you budget this thing?
I believe we can budget it. I mean, it's gonna be at the cost of something.
And if I
It
find
might
startup
mean
costs,
a few new tables that we can't get,
That would be good.
you know, but we've got to look at that. But that also gets into facility cost and in my belief about the fact that when we have this discussion about facility, it's also about getting some of the major things off that we're paying for now every year. Technology being one of them, our roofs being another one, that almost cause us to become capital poor because we're spending so much on those things we have to get done that we can't do some of the other things. You know, and that discussion will take place in the facility meeting, and eventually will be a discussion with the community, because we're going to have to look at that, and we're going to have to talk to them about it.
So are you saying you're looking for a motion, or do you want us to think about it,
I
what we
think it's-
did, and
You
then
could
bring
budget
it up
and
next
if I
time?
found something.
I would say this, if the board is feeling that they feel comfortable enough that if we believe we can do it, we have your blessing, fine. Then we would move forward with that and make a decision on our own. If the board wants that final say and wants us to come back, I would tell you that for sure at the next meeting you will come back, because I'll have probably 2 sheets in my hand, depending on what that decision is, because they'll both have an impact. If we have the program, it has an impact on staffing. If we don't have the program, it has an impact on staffing. And I'm going to need to make that decision to determine which way we go, and I don't want to wait any longer. Last year, you know, we were in June making final decisions on things. I don't want to go down that road. I want things well on their way, starting in April, to what we need to do for next year, so that everybody has the right to be upfront and know what's going to happen. So I don't want to wait. So, you know, I believe that we're going to be able to make this fly. You know, Lori has some conversations to go, and certainly we have some talking with SCSU. SCSU's been very helpful in, even if you can't bring it all together at one time, of even providing some of the equipment or renting some of the equipment. And we haven't sat down with Chuck and had a lot of that discussion. But I think this program is important enough to move us in the right direction, that we need to look at what we need to do in order to move down this road.
So when we all said yes, does that mean that our superintendent should prepare one budget of what we have to do to make this work? And if we come to the next meeting and we all agree that this is the program we want to move forward with, there's no sense in working on the other one. So where are we at?
And I don't want to rush.
I'm okay moving forward. I think what we can offer the kids outweighs a lot of stuff that we have in IC.
I don't, do not want to rush the board. You know, I can get by for one thing. You're right, I will prepare a couple things, but I'm not going to have an issue with that. I'm fine.
You're not gonna just come with one sheet of paper, I know you won't.
But I'm fine with doing it both ways, because I don't want to put the board in any kind of position that they feel rushed with any decision.
Okay.
Next week, or next meeting, I will be rushed, but.
Do we want to give the superintendent a directive here, or just let him prepare 2 budgets for us?
2 budgets, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 budgets is what it is.
Okay, and we will come back then, be aware that maybe just table this as a recommendation, and then we'll put it back on the agenda for next time, and at the next meeting, I will ask for a decision one way or another.
But I still think that she could still go out and do it.
Oh, we'll do,
Yeah,
we'll do some work so that we come back with possibly some more information on this.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you might want to make a motion that you possibly table it.
I'll make a motion to table this for final decision at the very next board meeting.
Second. Motion by Deb, seconded by Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Both say no.
You want to ask the public?
Comments from the public? Good thing. Go for it. What's that?
Go for it.
Oh, the Gophers.
Oh, Gophers.
Yeah, okay, well,
I have a public comment. On your costs, when you're figuring for, go back to the cost slide, slide 2, please. For the $500 renewable cost, some of the way that programs work, they work in kits of 20. So if you're planning for a class of 20, say, for a semester, is this taking into account that you have 20 kids, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter? So it's not like advanced biology, you're gonna have them for the whole year, it's gonna be those same 20 kids the whole year. You're gonna have to do that throughout the year.
Yeah, the program itself with Project Lead the Way is really, a lot is built around the computer and that CAD program
Yeah.
that they use. So a lot of the work is done off of that. There aren't a lot of other pieces. There's a lot of projects, but not necessarily a lot of costs.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, feel free to have Lori give me my email. And I will come back anytime you want if you need to be further explanations.
And Wayne did say if you wanted to give him a buzz, since he has actually taught the program, that you'd be more than welcome to do that. And if you have names of somebody that would be a good person to invite to my luncheon, please send them to me. That would be wonderful. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your,
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah.
Come on.
thanks.
Thanks, guys, for
number 3, review and consider approval of district goals for 2013-14 school year.
This is the second reading of this particular piece, so I think whether the board wants to come to a third reading or the board is fine with it, I think the board can decide, you know. I do think that these goals are appropriate. I also believe that our next move needs to be a strategic plan where we get the community involved. So I'm looking at, finishing the year with this and then at least starting the strategic planning piece that would go with this. So I think a lot of what's in here will remain in one form or another, but I do think they're pretty solid goals, but wherever the board's at with this, I'm fine.
Do you have other discussion?
I just have one more discussion. For next year,
Yep.
we will get this year well before, because we're almost into next year already, and this is, these goals are.
I apologize to the board at the last meeting. I will certainly apologize again, yes.
But it seems like we're always okaying the goals in January, it
It's-
seems like.
He said we weren't going to do that next year.
I don't debate that at all. As we go into the strategic planning, I would agree with you 100%, Mark.
No.
I'll make no excuses for it.
I'll make a motion to approve the,
Motion to approve by Mark, second by Deb. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Yes. Okay, number 4.
We can have exactly the same discussion with the superintendent schools. When we get into the business piece about setting my evaluation and stuff, I can tell you that within a couple weeks of when you finish my evaluation, I will come back to the board for goals for next year. So we won't be down this road again.
Okay, we have a motion by Deb, a second by Cheryl. Any further discussion on the superintendent goals? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. Now we're on number 5, review and consider approval of the Paynesville Area Schools Integration Plan Budget.
This is the first year that we've had this plan. What has caused this is that in order to be able to get these dollars from the state. You have to be adjacent to an isolated district, which means that they have a high diversity population. A couple things have happened is that, I think it's Long Prairie Greenville that has always been the isolated district. But now Melrose has become an isolated district, and that's what opened up the door for us to be able to apply for these funds. We haven't had the option of doing it before. So once Melrose became the isolated district, we were able to apply for it. And when that happens, you really do want to belong to a collaborative, and you can see all on the first page, these are all the members of the collaborative: Melrose, Long Prairie, Greenville, Paynesville, Osakis, Belgrade, Bruton. You know, these in Albany, they're all members of that collaborative, SOC Center. So we're all doing integration plans. We all have the same two goals. That's goal number 1 and goal number 2. The other thing that the state did that is different from what it used to do in the past, they really looked at the isolated piece just solely kind of a diversity issue, which also we don't have a whole lot of. But they added free and reduced because free and reduced students have a lot of the same characteristics as students who are diverse. So by adding that, it was really a great benefit to our district. Now, it's not a whole lot of money that we apply for on this. It's a little over $32,000. But it's still $32,000 that we wouldn't have if we didn't do this. So goal number 1 for the collaborative is really increasing the proficiency of all students in the area of, I'm going to make sure I get the right one, math. Okay, goal number 2 is increasing the proficiency in reading. Now, where these scores come from is that the state wants us all to be at a certain level in the year of 2016, 2017. So in all the areas, you'll see where the number of students that are proficient already, and you'll see an increase with a percentage there that just says, this is what we're aiming for, and the pieces that we're putting in place will help us get there. All right, everybody see that? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through everything. In Paynesville, you can see that, you know, for all our students, they're at 70.1, and our goal is to get them up to 76.3, and the state sets that for us. Okay, and you go down to the free and reduced, they're at 64.9, and our goal is to get them to 70.8, because we want to narrow the gap between our free and reduced and all the rest of our students. And we want to do this both in math and reading. So if you go to number 2, then they go through the same thing, only now it's a reading goal. Okay, and those are our collaborative goals. That's what the whole group of schools said we were going to do. When you get to the Paynesville goal, which is number 2, our first goal is what the collaborative goal is. Our goal is to get our math students to where it's at. Now it just breaks down our students a little bit more. We've added our white students and also our non-white students or students of diversity. And goal number 2 then is for the reading. All right? We did add a couple other goals. We did add one for school safety. Lori, if you want to talk a little bit about just the thinking, learning, and communicating piece.
We all heard the Jen Andrus's group with the Thinking, Learning, and Communicating program. So those would be dollars that would help fund the speaker that comes in, and then the retreat at the end of the year. That is something that we would like to continue with. So that would be that goal, is to continue that program.
And in order to get these dollars, you also have to have some inter-collaborative things done. We will be invited to go to Melrose, we'll be invited to go to Long Prairie Greenville, we'll invite them to us. All right, one of the things that we're going to invite them to, and Lori, if you want to maybe explain a little bit about the music and world language.
Oh, what I'd like to do is, on a rotating basis, is, for example, have the band, Mr. Knowlton, look for a group, say the Minnesota Marching Band, come into our building, do a program, and then possibly work with our different band students, and with that, invite other districts to come join us for the program, and possibly even some of the different section groups. Same thing with our world languages, so Spanish and German. Maybe the following year have them find a group or a program that's significant to their program. Again, invite people in, and then have that group work with our individual students or meet with them and do some different things like that.
Right.
So,
When you look at B and C, one's for support of math, one's support of reading, they're kind of the same. We are going to have a little bit of dollars to help provide an achievement specialist, provide some peer mentors, and Lori, that would, something that you've really become vested in, so if you want to explain that maybe a little bit.
The first one would be an hour out of the day. We'd have a teacher work with students that fall in the category of needing help in math and reading on a one-on-one or small group basis, and they would utilize their time partially over here in the middle school, high school, as well as in the elementary. And it kind of works, at least at this point, working with that next one, is it the next one with the mentoring part?
Yep.
And this is the piece that I think is going to be really integral and neat for our community, is a mentorship where we'll actually be able to hire junior, senior, maybe even 10th grade students and hire them, pay them minimum wage to tutor and mentor other students in the building. And we'd have a supervising teacher that would, schedule that, monitor that, have it open an hour before school feasibly, or 45 minutes, kind of starting at, 7:15, 7:30, and then doing an hour or hour and 15 minutes, depending, because I have 2 hours a day, after school, to make it user-friendly with kids that have taken that class recently or are currently in the class that kids, to sign up. So that is a program I think will be really, really advantageous for the students being mentored, as well as just creating some good relationships between younger class and our older classes, between your freshmen and your seniors and that type of thing.
And our mentors would get paid.
Our mentors would be paid, so
And then we've
good
got,
opportunity.
yep, got a middle school summer school incentive program. We just put a few dollars in so that some encouragement for some of our students.
Reward program for the boot camps
Yep.
that we do.
The elementary schools put Lake Wobegon Collaborative Elementary School Theater Camp together. It's about a week to a week and a half camp, and I've just been amazed with the program they put together. It's just amazing. They're using theater to help teach reading and math, and it's just, I think there's no doubt in my mind the state will call me on this one, because we also have a production group coming in to do some of the instruction with them, and then we're also taking them out. And this would be a collaborative type of thing, so we'll invite other schools in to bring their students in for this thing. But it is truly, what I've seen so far, it's just exciting to me to see how out of the box they thought in order to give our kids an opportunity to do some things that they normally haven't done and still teach them reading and math skills. I'm excited about it. I'm waiting for the call from the state when they get this tomorrow to say, what do you mean? You're going to send them to a theater to teach math and reading. But I think they've really put a good program together, and I'm excited to be able to defend that. Elementary school off-site theater experience, that is taking them to Chanhassen. If we're able to, and they're going to build on the skills that the elementary school theater camp is developing. So that's how we're tying those in together. Support the reading curriculum is pretty much the same thing. And then the collaborative music and world language exploration, celebration, we've already talked about that. The last page, any questions on that? The last page is really the one that I need to leave Bruce to sign off on, and this is the one that I send in tomorrow with all my plan. I do have a budget piece that breaks this all down. I didn't bring that in. Even this is a draft, because the state will get it tomorrow, but then they get to look at it. And they could come back and say, what do you mean you're going to teach math in the theater production? We're not going to allow that, even after I explain it, in which case I'd have to revamp everything else and could change little or a lot of this whole thing. That's why it's a draft until they accept it. Once they accept it, I'll bring it back to the board and I'll say this is kind of what the final piece is. But it's really, the budget is broken down into two parts. The $22,126 is really, I can use it for anything that fits within this. But the $10,000 really has to be used for the collaborative type of things. That's where that camp is going to get paid out of, that type of thing. So the total, they did put some strings on there. The total amount is $32,664. I am going to ask the board to approve this budget sheet so that we can get it in tomorrow and move this forward.
So moved.
Motion by Mark, second by Deb. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, then review and consider approval of the custodial contract for 2013.
In the background piece on the addendum, it just talks about it for the custodial contract, they get a 10-cent increase the first year plus their steps, and in the second year they get a 15-cent increase. Steps are included in both years. The cost also, I think at the last contract, there was certainly some discussion about the fact that the custodials, at least our maintenance crew that have boiler license, expected their cost to be stacked. That's not what it said in the contract, and they did come to me, but I said, I need to go by the contract. That really has been clarified in this contract. So if you look at page 26, for instance, that shows the stacking. In the previous year, it said you get 15 cents the first year, you only get 15 second. The second year, you get 20, you know, as you go up in these, I shouldn't say years, but specialist, second class, first class, and chief, they're really stacked. So this year you can see it's 15, they get 30 the second year, not just stay at the 15 range. So that was clarified. There was one sentence that was taken out. At one time, they needed to do a voucher for it. Well, we haven't done that for quite a while, my understanding is. So we just got rid of the voucher language. It's already built into their salary. In the uniforms piece, it's not costing any more for the district, but we did change a little bit on how they do it. In the past, they got 150 for uniforms. They said they needed more for shoes. So we made it 100 for the uniforms and gave them more for the shoes. But in essence, it was a wash. It didn't cost the district any more dollars. It's just how they're going to utilize it. Letter of agreement on page, the next page back, is just, this is the same letter of agreement that we've had, is that we changed their hours during the summer, that they don't work all the late hours they did. New piece to it is a memorandum of understanding. One of the things I've been trying to do because of budget restraints is get rid of all of our overtime. And where it doesn't cost us anything if a custodian has to come in for our community ed program, because it's just charged back to whoever uses it. It did cost us overtime for a district, not a community ed function, but a district function where they had to come in. They came in, we were paying time and a half. Okay, I'm trying to eliminate all overtime. So what we did is that we agreed that we would have 7 times to bring them in, and they would rotate it through to bring them in on a Saturday. We did agree to pay them an extra 50 cents for that Saturday, but not overtime. It does save us some money, and it gives us some flexibility. So there was a letter of a memorandum of understanding for that. And then we also agreed to, in the contract, to one of the other things that I'm looking at ending a past practice at, or at least what we've been doing, is that in the past we've allowed people to just take no pay days. I don't think they're good for the district just to allow people. It's cost neutral, I don't disagree with that, but it's never good to lose the people that you have in place. Now we're saying you have to have a valid reason to want to take an own pay day. You can't just say, well, I want to sleep in late tomorrow. You know, that may not be accepted by the principals. So they did agree that that would end and we'd go forward. So now if they want to take a no pay day, they will need to go to the principals and convince them that it's important enough for them not to be here. And I am talking to all my groups about the same thing. Because if we don't need them there, if it's just as good to have a sub here, then we better reevaluate that whole piece. Other than that, I think just years and those types of things for this particular contract. I think it's a good contract. I would certainly recommend approval. And if anybody else wants to do it.
We have a motion by Deb. Second. We have a second by Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Passed. Now we're on number 7, which is to discuss the next step regarding the Baseball Association lease of the Storm Shelter Stadium.
I think we just need to decide where we want to go from here. You know, from what I can see, at least the few options that I came to my head when I thought about this particular thing is you could have another community meeting to get more input from the community. You could have an article, I could write an article that says, you know, we've had one community meeting, you know, we're not gonna have another one, but if you have any questions or concerns, the board is gonna vote on this day on this issue. So you need to make sure that you get the board or the superintendent or get them your concerns. You can certainly vote on it now. I guess my only concern as a soup, I'd say, is that, you know, you're missing one member. This might be something that you might want to have your whole board there for. You could survey the community, you know, you could do any of those types of things. Those were the kind of the things that I came up with.
Your second option sounded pretty good to me, picking a date and say that, you know, or when at a particular board meeting, we were going to make the final decision. So if you have any concerns or input, you can contact any one of us or the superintendent.
Or they can show up at the meeting.
Yeah. or
Well,
show up
they
at the
certainly
meeting.
could, if we were, if the board were to decide to vote on it at the next meeting, it would be a community input meeting for that particular vote. You know, those were ideas that just popped into my head as I was looking at that before the meeting, so you may have a completely different thought on where you want to go with this, but we don't want to let it sit, is my concern. I think we need to move forward, whatever the decision of the board is, we need to get ready to make a decision on that.
Now, we had some questions at the community meeting on this, and are we gonna address any of them?
I think a lot of we can certainly address those particular issues. Some of them were a definition of what a monitor is. I think those are easy enough to come up with.
Well, I think the city talked about that
Yep.
a fair amount, such as the alcohol locked in the cooler all summer long. There was a question of that. That was one of them. Sound systems for the residents. You know, I don't know there's gonna be such a problem because at the stadium, the speaker's gonna be this direction, where on the football field and everything else, they're going right into town.
It'll
So-
actually probably be better that it's.
Yeah, I
away
would
from
think
the
that
residents.
may eliminate that. I don't know if that was tied with time restraints.
Well, I think certainly some of the concerns that at least people have talked to me about is, you know, having a celebration going on at 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, they would certainly like some limits. Now, I will tell you, I've been to amateur baseball games. They don't always end when you want them to end. You know, so you've got to have some flexibility. I think certainly we can put some parameters on there that says within a half an hour after the game ends, everybody is gone. You know, and you quit selling anything at a certain point, regardless of where they're at in the game, or the seventh
But I
inning, or
think,
whatever.
Jeff had made a comment too regarding that the city regulates all that for any open things, so they would have to apply for any permit or whatever, and that's very restricted of what they can and can't do anyhow, and so, I don't know if that's, you know, that's nothing
I think
that we're gonna say anything.
the biggest thing that is that the sound is headed in the right direction, you know, the speaker systems.
But you know what, there's so many people that I talk to that love that, they're gonna be sitting on their deck
I
in the
know.
athletic edition and listen to the game, so, I mean, you have this people that don't like it, this people that do like it, but, I mean, the reality is we're in a city, and there's noise in the city. You know, so that's the dilemma that you run into, you know, if you don't wanna have noise, then build out in the country, and then somebody will put up a race car track or something, you know? You know, it's just, you never know what's gonna happen, and the reality is that there's other people in this world that make noise, and we just have to make sure that the noise isn't too disruptive.
There was some discussion about a fence too, worried, some people worried about being able to walk through on the one side, so I think those are all discussions. I mean, there is a limit to the budget also.
Yep.
Because the community itself raised a huge amount of money for this particular project, but that, because we're so tight on those dollars, there's a limit to where they're at, and when surprises come up like the sprinkler system, some of the things that they had hoped to accomplish may not, so they may be things that we need to do in the future too. You know.
Well, I I guess I have to agree with Deb's idea. Maybe we pick a date and just get this settled, because I know that the group still has to approach the city. They're in control of all of that 3-2 beer anyway.
Right.
In there, and they have to go through their process too somewhere along the way. And so, would we make it next meeting?
Sure.
And then could you get an article in the paper, so there's plenty of time for people to respond? As was said at the meeting, the door's open. I'm not getting any calls about it. I've had a few people in favor of it, but other than that, I'm not getting calls.
A few people have talked to me, but I've kind of mentioned what their concerns would be.
Okay, so we'll move forward. April, what is it? 7th? Okay, so at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
And April 8th.
The
The next
8th.
Tuesday.
And I will put that on the agenda then for consideration of a vote then. And that doesn't mean you have to, but it will be there.
Okay. Then we're gonna set, we're in personnel, set a timeline and tool for superintendent evaluation. Last year we used that survey form or evaluation form.
It was one of the MSBA ones that they.
Everybody still comfortable with that?
Sure.
I guess, going back to a comment earlier about having things done timely, I'm wondering if we could have Bob get us that review and have his review next meeting. Give us 2 weeks to put it together, that'd be, then his contract runs out on the 1st of July, which doesn't give, and then we still have, the committee has to work with him on his contract, and I don't see how we can, I don't know how we make it work other than after timing. Does that sound okay with everybody? He gets it out
Are
to
we
us.
gonna go into a closed session for the thing, or is it?
I think that
Well, I think that's up to the board on what they do. I think there's good and bad for an open session and a closed session. Open session, sometimes people are a little more reluctant to make a comment of concern. They're a little more open to the public. You know, I'm fine either way, you know, on whatever the board feels comfortable.
Has the school board in your history, Deb?
We've always had
It's always been closed?
It's always been closed.
Okay, so we sit on closed then, at this point?
I mean, I would.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Okay.
It certainly gives you a little bit more latitude to tell me what you think.
Okay, so we'll get the evaluation forms out to all of us. It'll come electronically to all of us.
It will.
We'll get a chance to fill it out, and we'll have it scheduled for, at the end of the meeting, is that we're gonna do that?
Typically,
At the end, and then-
usually it's at one of the last things, you go into closed sessions, then you have the evaluation, you'll come back at the next meeting after that, there'll be a review, summary of what's going on. You might want to set a date though, for somebody to tabulate things. That does take a little bit of time for somebody to take all the information. Sorry, Deb, I'm looking at you because you tabulated it last year. So you might want to set a date before then that you have to get things to somebody before that time frame. Just a suggestion.
Do we need to plan that now, or can we all be aware of it and we'll decide?
When?
Next board meeting.
Will we have to decide?
Because it should be the next meeting that you're gonna report. Correct?
Well,
So
if you're
the
going to
second meeting in April?
evaluate me at the next meeting, you're going to want a summary of, at least, of the evaluation.
Within a week.
Before
Yeah.
April 8th?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't put things together, you won't know what thoughts were. Some people will make comments. You know, it'd be nice for the whole board to see everybody's comments. You'd want to see the rankings, all of those types of things. Yep.
After.
They did
Did
that
that
after.
after.
You just had after?
Yeah,
Then I would-
that didn't make sense.
Well,
We Last
It might be beneficial, well, I guess I could see either point for that, so I'll leave that in the board's hands.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah, it is what you did last year, that's right.
Yeah. I,
If we're gonna evaluate ahead of time, let's do it in a month then. So we can work on the eval, give it.
I guess I can see positives either way. If the board sees things, then it gives you an idea and people get thoughts about what other people are thinking. At the same time, you can also put some other thoughts in, you may not, think of that where that discussion could take place at the board meeting itself. So I guess I'll leave it at your desire to go either way. I think there's benefits to both sides of that upon thinking about this.
Personally, I kind of like the way we did it last time.
I think it was probably more beneficial to you than you realize, because since I did,
Tally it up.
sometimes what they wrote down wasn't exactly what they said. You
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
went, and then you think back, you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of see where that would mean that, but not really.
Okay,
A lot of,
yep, and I'm fine with that.
shorthand and.
Some people have handwriting like me.
There
Not
should have been
looking
a
at
lot
any
of
specific
thought
people,
on it.
but.
okay, so, set it last year. The surveys, or
Yep.
the.
You'll get them, you'll get it tomorrow.
Meet in a closed session.
Yep.
Okay? Okay, then next, a review and consider approval of resignation request from Vanessa Larson, effective March 28th, 2014.
She's an early childhood instructor. I'm recommending, has another job. She's moving to something else, so I certainly recommend that we approve it.
Okay, motion by Kella, second by Deb, is that what happened? Pretty close.
Close enough.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, we're on informational reports. While you're on.
I think mine will be really short because the biggest things that we've been working on, you have heard, it was the Project Lead the Way, and then the integration budget. I do have a tentative schedule to look at that Bob and I are reviewing at this time and looking at capital needs for next year. That is the other thing David and Bob and I will be working with. I met with our teacher leadership team, kind of talked about some of the different things in the facility as well as curriculum. Our social studies and our FIED and health programs are the programs that are in their buying cycle year, so they are looking at what they need and what's going to best fit their program for the next 6 years is what that cycle is. So with that, we're starting our new spring season. We do have the section speech meet here this Friday. So we'll have a very busy building Friday night. And if the board has any other questions for myself.
Anybody? Okay, thank you. Then we have the WCED board meeting report from Lou.
Well, the West Central End Board meeting was held in Sauk Center on March 17th. Doug gave the financial report, and on the new business, we discussed pay equity report. That was done by Doug Gillaway. And the total payroll was $1,769,705.86, if anybody is interested in it. We were given a report on the salary breakdown on each job classification. And a teacher's review and development plan was given and approved by the board. Currently, the ALC has social worker for 2 days a week and a chemical dependency worker for 1 day. And they would like to expand on that, because they're going to expand this whole beacon, they're hopefully to expand this whole beacon program. In fact, they gave a report on it, and they gave out a project plan for their new building. There's going to have 3 classrooms. Now, are you familiar with that? Have they discussed that with you?
No, Not so much yet.
Well, they want, at the Beacon level, they want, at Sauk Center, they want to go all the way through 12. And so that'll take up 3 classrooms, and each classroom should have, I believe, it's 12 students in each classroom. Right now, they do have 38 people at the ALC.
And currently, the program goes to 6th grade, and
Right now,
they
it's just
start transitioning out, so you have some of those students that start struggling, kind of that 4th and 5th grade year, and they have seen that there needs to be more assistance and a little longer period in that type of program prior to transitioning back.
And then they'd like to get started expanding. They do a nice plan on it. It's going to be quite a project if anybody's interested in this around here. And I think they want to probably try to keep these students there instead of going to Starbucks and surrounding areas. They'd rather keep it at Sauk Center. Now, something I didn't realize, they mainstream at Sauk Center, at Sauk Center, our kids, Albanese, into their program for a couple hours a day. Now, what I didn't understand is why we couldn't have done that to our students instead of coming back and forth.
That is something they have just started this year, and it's been
Yeah, they started it this year.
very tentative on that, so they didn't make it available for us yet.
It wasn't available?
No, our students, they weren't ready to do that.
Part of it's the timing and the loss of time that you have with the transport, and yet another piece of it is the transport itself, being able to set that up. Certainly, I think we'll start having more and more discussion with them about it. You know, another thing that we've also talked about is the Reserve Center and what we need to use that for.
Well, yeah, but that will take away from, are they aware that we may be able to do that here?
We're
looking into doing
gonna
it?
have a discussion.
I didn't want to bring that up Monday
No,
night.
there's gonna be discussion in April with me and
Because, see, that would make a difference to
WCED.
that plan for their,
Yep.
their.
No, we'd be looking at different types of kids. Those are not the same kids that they
So
have.
we'd still be transporting them there too.
We don't transport level 4, level 5 students to any of those programs. They
Well,
typically end up,
Now, we're transporting them to
Yeah.
Melrose and Sauk.
not
Not at
level
that level.
5, not at that level.
Well, what level do we plan on working with here?
Well, again, this is just a discussion, Lou, and we haven't even sat down and talked with the WCED a whole lot about it.
No, I know.
They'd be the most needy students if we were to look at something like that.
Oh, I
The
see.
ones that we typically would end up at Starbucks.
Well, that would be
Cosmos.
more needy at Starbucks.
Yes.
Yeah, much more.
And moving back to your initial question, the transitioning they're talking about is this, sometimes students, if we're looking at a shorter transition, so they will be with us full-time,
Mhm.
that is what
Like
we
we
do
experienced this
with,
year.
like what we've been doing,
Mhm.
is different than saying giving the student an opportunity to go for one class for an elective as part of their curriculum, but they're not looking at graduating from the program.
Oh, no, they wouldn't be. I know
So,
about
so that was the difference that you've seen with the transportation, is when they're looking at coming back into our building. So,
Well, has anybody got any questions? Our next meeting will be May 19th at Albany.
Okay, next then, thank you, Lou.
Yep.
Next
Staff
is staff
development, I
development.
was there, but I slipped out the door and left my notes
Yeah.
at home. Basically, most of the meeting was on making up all the snow days. There was a lot of discussion on that.
We talked a little bit about just the goals and those types of things. We also talked about some new pieces that had come up and what we're gonna look at doing next year and that type of stuff. You know, this year, just because of where the budget is, I've been trying to keep every dollar I can, so we haven't used all of our dollars at this point. But there's still things that we need to do and we need to send staff out on. So we had quite a bit of discussion on that.
And one thing I wanted to add to, because you brought it up, discussing something else, to that term teacher
Teacher leadership team.
That term comes up at staff development quite often. Things that used to have to be, well, look, you know, it'd be handled like, well, we'll take a survey or we'll ask our building or whatever, and then you didn't ever feel like you got a lot of information back. And these leadership teams, it's like they take so much of the lead on that, and you get back and
Get information back.
yeah, when you want to know how does the staff feel about this for staff development, or they want to do what do we need to offer? I mean, the follow through this past few years has been really improved immensely. So I think as far as like what they do on their in-service days, that they're really getting, if they're not getting what they want, they didn't ask for it.
I do believe that both buildings have very strong leadership
Yes.
teams.
Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Questions of anybody else? Okay, we're on number 4, special board meeting.
That was really the facility meeting. We've had a lot of discussion about it. I thought we had over 50 people there, I believe. I tried to get head count, but some were pretty quick and moved around. But I do believe we had over 50 people, not all in favor, but I think a lot of the community members certainly came up with some good comments and some concerns that are things that we need to look at. So you were all there, so I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add with that.
I wasn't there, but I did get a copy, someone
We copied it and,
and
yeah.
sent it to me, so I got to, I didn't need to add anything, but I got to hear it all, so that was kind of unique.
Okay, then let's go to number 5, administration meeting.
Just a few things, no makeup days. We now made up the 24th, 25th. Next snow makeup day is April 21st. That will be the last snow makeup day. I'm hoping that we will make up with students besides May 30th. So the students' makeup days that are left are April 21st and May 30th. So they would end on that Friday then. The staff would come back for June 2nd for in-service day, and then June 3rd for the last day. Okay, the other 2 days are going to be made up with the principals and the staff deciding how they're going to make those hours up. I'm leaving it in their more than capable hands. All right, budget, just be aware next meeting, really, we're going to have some discussion. You saw how I handled the first one last year when we talked about that. It will be very similar. We are down students. That alone has an impact on our budget and on our staffing. So we're certainly going to have a discussion about that, and it will start in earnest next year. I'm still looking at projected reduction of $300,000. All right. Had our first facility meeting. It was kind of an introduction one, but I thought it went very well. At the next one, it's on March 27th at 6:30 in the media center. Garland is presenting at that one. You've already have all seen that presentation. It won't change much at all. That will be the main focus of that, plus my principals have come to me with some lists of things that we'll also bring up, and I'll put an agenda together, and at least the agenda the whole board will see. Now, I am going to suggest, I am starting to get stuff back from Ewell now concerning the elementary school. What I'm going to suggest is at the March 27th meeting, we're going to set a date for a special board meeting. Because the problem is that you will run into open meeting law issues, in my opinion. There's a simple way to take care of that. If we just make it a special board meeting, when Ewell presents concerning the elementary school, all of you can be there, all of you can hear it, the facility members can still be there, they can still ask questions as community members, but it allows all of you to see the same information. And I think as we go down this road, at least in my opinion, and certainly I will go whichever way the board directs me to go on this, but I think it would be worth it to make that the 2 Ewell presentations, one for the elementary, one for the secondary, a special board meeting with just that as a topic. After we get done, you see in that presentation, if the facility committee wants to meet right after that, they can meet and stay. The rest of the board simply needs to leave at that point. I know that there is some people that would say we can have more than 3 board members there. I would tell you my own personal opinion is that I think that it's not worth the risk to do that when there are ways to get around it. I have always felt that if you get four, it's a quorum of the board, and that's a board meeting. I still believe that, even though we have gotten some information that says differently, but that would still be my feeling on that. I think there's a way to get around that without even going down that road, whether we can or not. I mean, if there's desire of the board to see it all, we can do that without treading on those grounds. So unless the
Bob and I
board,
both got in on that one. We have a lot of stuff going on in the facility meeting, and we wanted the possibility of other members to attend. It comes down to the quorum issue. It appears that if we're in the same place, four of us, we have a quorum, and we're not sure that, even though we were told that it would work, we're not positive of that at this point.
I
So
just.
that's why Bob says, let's go to a special meeting, and we don't have any quarrel, but it's also something all of us are probably curious about.
So are you saying next March 27th will be a special meeting?
No, March 27th, this Thursday is a facility meeting. At that meeting, I'm going to bring this up to the committee. It'd be nice to set a couple days so that the committee can pick a few days and then come back to the board and say, or send an email saying which day you want it, and then we'll set the meeting, we'll post within the open meeting law requirements, which is a 3-day notice. And then we'll have that next meeting with Yule coming out. I haven't gotten a date from them also about when they can make it to give their first presentation. I'd like to set it far enough down the road so that once I get all the information, I can send it to the facility committee. If there's some community members that are really interested, I can give it to them and to the complete board to take a look at it, because you might take a look at it and have a lot of questions. I have a phone conversation with Donnie tomorrow and somebody represented from Yule, so he can start to kind of go through some of that stuff with me just to fill me in. There's some numbers there and stuff, but I want to know what they mean. You know, we want to be as straight as we can with this thing.
That makes sense. Yep. So.
Yeah. So
So if the board's okay with that, then that's what I'll do. I also need to find a day for a workshop, we haven't forgotten it, about the MSBA Leadership Conference, what we talked about there, and then also the PR, how do we retain students, how do we attract students, discussion with the board. So I still not have forgotten that, so there'll be a couple meetings coming up that we'll be setting up. Let's see. Talk about that. I guess I would like to just clarify one piece that was in a newspaper article concerning the stadium. There certainly is a possibility that we might make some money with renting the stadium out to various groups, but quite frankly, I would never say that or believe that it's going to be a sustainable thing, that we're going to make this big lump of money every year. I simply, quite frankly, don't believe that. If we make anything on a regular year, I'll be happy, because that'll go back into the maintenance of the stadium. But it's nothing that I'm counting on, I can promise you in my budget. The other piece is that it's not about the money to me. I said at that meeting that philosophically, I can't say I'm in favor of this. What I am in favor of, though, is a very strong community, very strong school, and that I believe that they're linked hand in hand with each other. That you need both of them in order to be strong, either one of them being strong. Strong community, strong school, strong community. This is a way, I believe, of bringing dollars into our community and helping our community be strong. So I did want to just clarify that piece. In any misunderstandings I may have created, I don't believe that it's going to be this great amount of dollars coming into us. I simply don't believe that. But I do believe that there's some opportunities, probably more for the community than for us, and I think that helps us in the end too. That's all I got.
Okay, do we have any other, anybody want to talk about? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Lou,
Second.
second by Cheryl. All in favor say aye.